As the movie begins, we see a young woman named Aryong, who is the daughter of one of the powerful gangsters in Hong Kong. One evening, while attending a high-profile party, Aryong is asked to show off her sword skills by their rival gang, Black Dragon, intending to humiliate her. However, Aryong complies with the request and gracefully performs an impressive sword dance. Just then, one of the Black Dragon's members breaks a glass, scattering the pieces on the ground, and moments later, Aryong steps on it and gets injured, causing her foot to bleed. Despite this, she keeps performing, but as the audience starts to make fun of her, she becomes irritated, and in a moment of rage, she stabs the person who threw the glass shards earlier. Due to this, the gangsters get enraged and prepare to attack, but Aryong's father immediately calms the situation down. Aryong, on the other hand, is still determined to take revenge on the gang leader for humiliating her. So the next day, she tracks down the Black Dragon's leader in a barber shop and brutally slits his neck, ultimately killing him. In the next scene, the gang leader's funeral is held and everyone is enraged at Aryong for killing their boss. So a high-ranking member named Kuk Chong vows to kill Aryong at any cost to avenge his boss. The word quickly reaches Aryong's father, so he decides to send his daughter to Korea and place her in the care of a friend called Big Boss, who is one of Korea's most prominent gangsters. The scene then shifts to Korea, where the Big Boss informs his subordinate Ki Chul about Aryong's arrival. Ki Chul is a low-level gangster, but his boss trusts him with keeping Aryong safe in Korea because he speaks Chinese. However, the truth is that Ki Chul knows no Chinese, but he doesn't want to disappoint his boss, so he agrees to do the job. Next, Ki Chul and his two assistants, Kong Chi and Du Mi, arrive at the airport to pick up Aryong. The three had assumed Aryong was a guy, so they are taken aback to find an attractive woman. Because none of them speak Chinese and she doesn't speak Korean, there is an immediate sense of discomfort between her and the boys. Later, Ki Chul takes her to meet the Big Boss, who greets her warmly in Korea. He then tells Aryong to feel free to order Ki Chul and his subordinates about anything while she is in this country. Following that, Ki Chul takes Aryong to the house where he and his friends live. After she settles in, the boys try to show her who's the boss and demonstrate how strong they are. Just then, Aryong appears and shows them how to properly beat someone, making the boys realize she's not just a normal girl. Moments later, a translator named Yun arrives, but she is terrified by the fighting and beating. She tries to get away, but the boys drag her inside the home. They all settle down and talk, but Yun is terrified of the gangsters. So she begins translating Aryong's rude statements into softer ones to avoid the gangsters' anger. Just then, Aryong shows them a picture of her mother and asks the boys for help in finding her. The following day, Kong Chi and Du Mi are bothered by the sudden arrival of a rival gang. As the two gangs clash, Aryong decides to help the two boys. She then kicks a small table toward the rival group, causing them all to collapse. Taking advantage of the situation, the two boys begin beating them one by one. Later that evening, the group goes to a restaurant for dinner and beverages. Ki Chul becomes really drunk, so he walks to the restroom to puke while Kong Chi follows to help him. Meanwhile, the rival gang that was previously beaten up comes back and begins to bother them. One of the gangsters then kicks Du Mi and tosses him to the ground. He then messes with Aryong, who responds by throwing chopsticks at the group of men. After that, she kicks them one by one and mercilessly beats them all till they can't even stand. Du Mi then rushes to the washroom to report this to Ki Chul and Kong Chi, but they are doubtful that Aryong could beat up a gang of men on her own. Afterward, the beaten rival gang reports back to their boss, making Ki Chul's group their target. The next day, after some research, the rival gang decides to invite Ki Chul and Aryong to their office, and when the two finally arrive, they discover Kong Chi and Du Mi beaten by the gangsters. Seeing his friends in such a condition, Ki Chul becomes enraged and decides to fight the head of the rival gang. Ki Chul immediately charges at him, but receives a blow to the face. He jumps up and tries again, but he is again hit in the face. He stands up again, and this time, Aryong helps him by throwing a peanut into the boss's eyes. With this, Ki Chul manages to strike a hard blow on the boss's head as he stumbles around. Just then, the gang members rush to their boss's help. They surround Ki Chul and assault him with bats and blows. But despite Ki Chul's stance, he is vastly outnumbered. Aryong then comes forward, knocking Ki Chul aside and attacking the group of guys. Even though she is encircled by the enemies, she manages to strike strong kicks at them. The whole gang is all injured on the floor in a matter of seconds, with only Aryong standing. Meanwhile, Ki Chul and his friends are stunned by Aryong's remarkable fighting skills. Following that, the group returns home, and after the event, Ki-chul and his friends are impressed and are also afraid of Aryong. Later that evening, Ki-chul and Aryong have some drinks outside in the garden. Even though they cannot communicate in one another's language, Ki-chul becomes drawn to Aryong, and she also appears to enjoy being around him. The next morning, the gang gathers around for breakfast. Aryong begins to open up and be a little gentler to the guys. She asks them not to be afraid of her because of what happened last night. However, Ian translates some threatening sentences to create fear in the boys. But Ki-chul becomes skeptical of the translator, suspecting that she is interpreting inaccurately. Afterward, Big Boss summons Ki-chul and his friends to his office, and when they arrive, they notice that the rival gang leader has finally acknowledged defeat and has come to apologize. Due to this, Big Boss is very pleased with Ki-chul and appreciates his efforts, unaware that Aryong is behind it. Following that, he promotes Ki-chul from a low-level gangster to his right-hand man. Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, we see Kuk-chong, who is still motivated to take revenge on Aryong. Therefore, he dispatches a team of professional assassins to Korea to murder the beautiful gangster. In the next scene, Ki-chul and Aryong are having a good time with their friends in the local market. However, they are interrupted when they see the assassins who have arrived to murder Aryong. Even though Aryong is aware that they plan to kill her, the rest of the group believes they are after Ki-chul. The gang manages to flee and seek cover, but unfortunately, Aryong is shot in the arm. Seeing this, Ki-chul immediately calls Big Boss and tells him about this attack, as he thinks that their rival gang is still chasing them. Now, when the group arrives home, they immediately start tending to Aryong's wound. However, they realize that the assassins are still waiting outside their house to shoot them, so they decide to hide somewhere else for a few days. They divide into two groups, with Ki-chul and Aryong in one and the remaining three in the other. They then get into two different cars and drive away. The assassins, on the other hand, are only interested in Aryong's car and continue chasing them throughout the area. However, when the assassins crash into a passing truck, the two sneakily manage to get away. Later, Ki-chul brings Aryong to his parents' house to seek shelter. He then introduces the lady as his girlfriend to his parents. Naturally, his parents appear to be quite delighted to meet her. The couple then spends the night at home, unconcerned about what lies ahead. The next day, Ki-chul's mother gives him a family necklace that has been passed down through generations. She then requests that he give it to Aryong. Ki-chul refuses at first, but she convinces him to accept and advises him not to wait too long to confess his love to Aryong. Meanwhile, back in Hong Kong, Aryong's father is seen having a meeting with Kuk-chong. He requests Kuk-chong to set aside rivalry and stop seeking his daughter. Initially, Kuk-chong claims to agree, but after he leaves, he detonates a bomb in the area, injuring Aryong's father severely. The next day, Aryong and Ki-chul meet up with their friends in a cafe. Kong-chi warns Ki-chul that the assassins are seeking Aryong, not him. He discloses that she is the daughter of a prominent gangster in Hong Kong and is also responsible for the death of Black Dragon's boss. While they are talking, Aryong walks outside to contact her father, but just then, three assassins show up. She immediately flees from there, but the assassins follow her. A few moments later, they eventually confront each other, and as sand kicks up between them, Aryong manages to hurl her daggers directly at two of the assassins' necks, leaving just the leader standing. They then start fighting, displaying excellent sword abilities and skillfully preventing one another's attacks. The assassin is slightly stronger, but she is outwitted by Aryong, who dives into a large pile of hay. As the assassin dives in and tries to stab her all over the stack, Aryong stabs her in the stomach, effectively ending the fight in Aryong's favor. Just then, Ki-chul and the rest of the group arrive, and they return home. Later, Ki-chul informs Aryong that he found her mother's address. So the next day, Aryong arrives at that address and sees her mother from a distance. She notices her mother has a new family and is happy in her life. However, she decides not to talk to her and walks away without saying anything. Afterward, Aryong decides to leave Korea and return to Hong Kong. When she reaches the airport, Ki-chul tries to express his feelings for her, but she ignores him and simply walks away. In the next scene, she arrives in Hong Kong and finds her wounded father on the verge of death. She tells him she saw her mother, who appeared to be quite happy, but soon after, he dies after seeing his daughter for the last time. The next day, Ki-chul arrives in Hong Kong to pay a visit to Aryong. She tries to ignore him at first, but he approaches her and gives her his family necklace. This makes Aryong emotional, and she ends up kissing him. Later, still grieving for her father's death, Aryong decides to seek vengeance once and for all with the rival gang. So the next day, she shows up to a wedding of a Black Dragon member. There, she takes the place of a bride and receives blessings from their leader, Kuk Chong, who gives the couple a sword as a wedding present. Ariong then takes out a blade and strikes Kuk Chong, but he manages to flee from there. This causes chaos at the wedding, and other gang members proceed to attack her. Meanwhile, Ki Chol also arrives with Ariong's gang members, and an intense confrontation ensues between the two groups. Ariong then murders several gangsters while tactically fleeing gunshots. Even the right-hand man of the Kok Chung cannot stand a chance against her, since she deflects his gunfire and plunges a blade into his chest. After some time, Ariong finally finds Kok Chung, who is still alive but hurt. She tries to close the distance with her two swords, but he pulls a handgun from his sleeve and shoots her in the leg. As she kneels in pain, Kok Chung points a gun at her, ready to kill her. But just then, Ki Chol appears and diverts Kok Chung's attention. This irritates Kok Chung, so he shoots Ki Chol, who is then thrown off the building. With this altercation, Ariong becomes extremely enraged, so she stabs Kok Chung before throwing a knife at his body. Around the same time, Kok Chung also falls down the building and ends up dying on the streets. Ariong then looks down and is relieved to see Ki Chol, who is still alive as he fell into a garbage truck passing by. After this incident, Ariong is chosen as the new leader of the Black Dragon. Meanwhile, Ki Chol is preparing to leave Hong Kong to return home. Just then, Ariong's right-hand man arrives and informs her that Ki Chol is departing. Ariong is not concerned because she believes he will eventually leave her anyway. The man then tells her that her father has always regretted letting his mother leave and urges her not to make the same mistake again. Hearing this, she gathers the gangsters and stops Ki Chol, who is on the way to the airport. And with the help of the translator, she proposes to him, which Ki Chol eagerly accepts. The two then passionately hug each other as the movie comes to an end.